What's up, guys? It's your boy JV Gaming here with my man MSU Fanatic. We are the Real Take, presented by Scorespace. How are you, MSU? Episode 3. Today is gonna be what, October 27th, 2 days shy of my birthday. So, birthday show. I'm gonna be 26. I'm an old man. Yeah, shady. All the beautiful women out there watching, and you're gonna hit me with the 28 line.
Halloween's coming up. Got in Tribe, your hometown team in the series right now. I mean, we got NBA kicking off last on Tuesday night. LeBron James getting that ring for hometown Cleveland. I mean, sports hockey's going right now. We're right in the middle of the season for the NFL. I mean, it doesn't get much better for sports fans right now. Um, it just doesn't get much better for these guys right now. It's awesome. It's the best time of the year. College football,
Good
right?
good time to be alive, man, especially if you're living here in Cleveland. I'll tell you that. You as well, man. Cubby fans, Chicago fans, it's an exciting time. It's an
Yeah,
exciting
I
time.
mean, I'm pumped, man. I'm just hoping that we're hoping for different things. I'm in general hoping for just a series that lives up to the hype that came into the games with, and that we can remember for the rest of our lives that this historical series goes down to the wire and has two really good, well coached teams fighting it out for the World Series title, trying to win for their hometowns that haven't seen a title in for the Cubs 108 years, and for the Indians it's been
Long live 6 months for Cleveland
well
fans.
but for the Tribe it was what, 75
Yeah,
now.
it's been a while. It's been about a combined 180 years or
Yeah,
so.
so
So
I mean, it's just you just can't write anything better. And I'm so happy for baseball right now, right? We've been hearing all this news about the NFL trending in the wrong direction. Ratings are down for the NFL. The product on the field's been really down this year, and we're going to get into that later on in the show. But I'm just really happy for baseball that they're on in the grandest stage, that they have two teams that draws the whole national audience. And not only that, you have a team in the Cubs who the average age is what, 25 years old, so they're kids like us. And I mean, you it's just pulling in an audience that, Bryce Harper, as much as some people hate him and he's a polarizing guy, he wants to make baseball fun again, and baseball is fun again, right? You got
right,
Francisco Lindor out there, you got Javier Baez. They have this little, like, they're competing for a World Series title, a world title, right? And they're out
right.
they're out there joking around like they're playing in their backyard.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't know they're high school friends or younger childhood friends. So
I
it's
mean,
cool to
how
see.
awesome is that these guys, that while they're making millions of dollars doing what they love, playing a game in the grandest stage of them all, they're playing like they're kids in the backyard. And to me, that just, being a baseball fan and enjoying baseball, I hope that everyone that's watching it right now that doesn't watch it like us fanatics that watch it throughout the year, that are watching it right now, are like, wow, this game is beautiful and it's fun. And look at these guys. They are having fun. Because to me, that makes the fan in me happy, when guys out there know that they're playing a game and they take it like a game. I know it's serious business, and at the end of the day, it is a business, but man, it's fun to watch. It really is.
No, it is, man. And like you said, they're just acting like kids out there, like it'd be, the regular old me and you. And I think it draws the younger crowds in, which is something that baseball's really been missing for about the last decade. And I think that's important. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, man. So let's just fire it off right now and get to it, since we're really going to focus and hammer in on the World Series, since it is the precipice of sports going on right now. Um, Game one, Fargo. We're going into game one. We got Kluber facing Leicester. Battle of just two outstanding aces. Take me in your mindset as a Cleveland Indian fan of how you just what you were thinking going into game one, what the result, obviously shutting out the Cubs. Kluber obviously pitch is a great pitcher, a Cy Young Award candidate winner. Uh, and he pitched an A-plus gem of a game, right? So take me through just game one, how you felt the Tribe did, what their biggest successes were, what you thought was kind of weird. Just give me what your perspective was as a Cleveland
Right.
fan for game one.
Going into the game, man, our biggest thing was is if we got guys on against Leicester, we knew we were gonna run. We were gonna run all over him, and I'm not just talking about second base. We had 3 or 4 guys who I thought were gonna not only steal second base, but they might attempt to steal third, and that's something that we didn't really get to. Now I don't want to say get to expose. It's something that we really just didn't expose, and I don't know if that was because of the cold weather and the wet ground kind of neutralizing the fact, not being able to get a good jump. You saw Frankie Lindor get thrown out by Ross.
Yep.
He didn't really get a good jump, but he just couldn't get his feet underneath him when he was trying to take off.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that was one of the huge keys going into the game. And then obviously, you have Kluber on the mound, and if he's got it, he's about as tough as they come to hitting. Doesn't throw a straight pitch. He's got the sinker that'll come inside and dip in and get you on the hand, which in cold weather just isn't fun at all.
Yeah.
And then you got that nasty cutter to where it just kind of falls right off the plate for you. And boy, he was hitting his spots, and I know that there's a lot of people out there saying that he was getting help from the umpire.
Man, he was
I'm
painting the crap out of it.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, he didn't need the help from the umpire. He was locked in, and I'm surprised Tito didn't let him go 110 pitches. But as you could see right after the game, he said Kluber's going to start game 4. So hats off to Tito for being able to manage that,
Yep.
keep him under 90 pitches, and I mean, I know as an Indians fan, he'll be ready to go for game 4.
Yep.
It's gonna be fun.
Yep. To me,
Um,
I was most impressed with Kluber during the game. I mean, just absolutely painting pitches, painting corners, just front door sinkers, sliders, fastballs, manipulating the eye level of hitters, doing everything that you expect a great pitcher to do. He delivered that. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. It really was the way that
no, it
he
was.
worked the pitchers, and I think something that really goes unnoticed to a regular fan, but I loved it. Roberto Perez, right? Roberto Perez called a fantastic game one, and every time the guy made a call sign or they needed a big out or there was a jam going on, I mean, he would put the signs down. He'd tap his chest and point at the pitcher, and then put his glove out. And to me, if I'm a pitcher, right, and I see my catcher making such a confident sign, I'm immediately more confident in the pitch I'm about to throw because of how confident my catcher is behind the plate, right? So to me, that was just, I thought it probably went unnoticed, right, for a regular person. But God, man, I would absolutely love seeing that as just a pitcher on the mound, and I'm sure it gave Kluber even more confidence than what he already had. I don't know what your thoughts about that are.
No, I agree. It's tough because you have the Cubs have such a huge fan base. And when they think that they're not getting a fair game called or something's not going well, um, you're gonna hear about it. And it's hard for me because I'm the kind of guy, especially doing what we do. I'm on social media a lot, so having to not I'm not trying to fight with these guys.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to call it how it is, but it's just you have to kind of play that happy medium of not trying to blow up
Yep.
and stick to what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, I can't wait to see him pitch game 4. I really can't.
No, I totally agree. And honestly, for me, being a Cubs guy, and I saw, um, I saw a lot of people complaining about the calls. Especially, I went to work the next day, and a lot of my Cubs buddies who are diehards Cubs people were complaining about the calls, and I posted a link on Twitter and to JV. It was basically talking about there's a Pitch FX, right? So Pitch FX is a monitoring system that all the MLB stadiums have. They have like 6 video cameras around, and they track every single pitch and show
And I can bring this up if that's something you want to do.
and they can showcase, and I'll just talk about it for the listeners out there. It showcases where all the pitch across the plate, right? And there's another website called Brooks Baseball, I believe was what it's called, brooksbaseball.com, who actually takes all those pitches and actually showcases a regular what a strike zone, average strike zone should look like, right? And then it plants out the deviation from the regular average strike zone to what the new strike zone was. And it looked like right-handed hitters, the strike zone was a tiny bit smaller. It wasn't that bad. And to left-handed hitters, it was shifted away from the left-handed batter, right? It was shifted a little bit away, which is what we saw. We saw that outside corner really being painted by Kluber most of the night, which is he was throwing the sinker and the slider all the way, all that sort of stuff, right? And what I noticed from that, to me as a Cubs guy, there was nothing egregious about that. All the calls, there were, I believe, two balls that Kluber got that were called strikes, and there was one strike that Lester got that was called a ball, right? And that's just what's going to happen when you have a subjective umpire behind the plate. And I showed this to my coworkers, who are, again, are all Chicago's Cubs fan, diehard Cubs fans, because I work in the city. And every single one of them was like, well, I guess I can't argue about the stats, but I don't care about that anyways, is what I saw. And my argument to that is, don't you think your bias probably fed into that factor? And then not only that, when you see a guy at the plate, especially going against a pitcher like Kluber, where the ball moves so much that basically the ball's coming at you, right? At first, that's what you think, and you move out of the way, right? But it comes back over the plate. Don't you think that when you see the guy move out of the way, that you're more than likely to have that bias in your head that that ball is probably a ball, right?
Right.
Instead of, you know what, it came across the plate, he just moved out of the way because he read it wrong, right? I don't care where I'm at. I'm looking at a TV at an offset angle. I have no idea how these balls are going to move and move across the plate. It's very, very hard for me to see on TV. I'm not one to say that like I will more than likely side for the umpire unless it's totally egregious and we have a better angle. But no one else in that ballpark. When you go to a ball game, right? The guy in right field, 20 rows up, seems to know where the balls and strikes should be more so than the umpire. And it's like, absolutely not. And I told the guys at work, I was like, listen, guys, then if you don't believe what the stats are showing you, then you go trek out to game two, sit behind the plate, and you track it yourself. Okay.
Right, and not to cut you off, for those of you guys who might be simulcasting on Twitch, I just brought the chart up, so go ahead and continue to talk MSU. So,
Well, that's, I
um,
mean, that's mostly all my point was really like, I, I thought it was way overblown. And a guy that is painting the corner that much, right, is going to continue to get that corner. And if he keeps hitting the spot, that ump is more than likely going to continue to call the game the same way, right? I thought Lanover was consistent for the most part, and everyone's going to hate me for saying that, but I really did not think it was egregiously bad to the point of, oh my God, I can't believe that the calls that the Cubs are getting versus, or the Indians are getting versus what Lester's getting. Okay.
right. Now the strike zone was a little big.
Yeah.
This you saw that starting off the game, but the key, and and some umpires have a bigger strike zone than others.
Yeah.
Some days it's tight, some days it's bigger. But the key is just consistency. I don't care if the umpire's calling pitches that are at the chest all the way down to the ankles. If he's calling a 1 through 9 for both teams,
Yep.
so be it. As a hitter with 2 strikes, if you know he's been calling that for 4 innings, you need to swing the bat,
Yep.
and that's my argument. If you're not swinging the bat, then it's nobody's fault but your own. You know the strike zone.
The Cubs had chances, right? The Cubs had chances. Didn't they leave like 13 on base the first game?
They did a lot of strike 3 calls
Yeah,
looking as
a
well.
lot of
You
strike
got to
three
take the
calls
bat off your
looking.
shoulders.
I mean, it's not like they didn't have chances to swing the bat and get hits and score RBIs. Like they had chances to do that. And yes, of course, again, Kluber was absolutely outstanding, and you tip your cap to that guy. And I think all the Cubs 1 through 9 were like, that guy was dealing. It was going to be very, very difficult for us to get any sort of things
Right.
going, right? But I thought, being a Cubs fan watching game one, that I wasn't concerned going into the second game, right? As not only just a regular objective fan, but also a subjective Cubs fan, because the Cubs put together quality at bats. They saw a lot of pitches. They got to the relievers. They got Kluber out of the game because obviously he was going to pitch game 4 and potentially game 7. Um, so I wasn't concerned because they were hitting the ball fairly well and they were seeing a lot of pitches. They were doing a really great job. So um, I guess to wrap up kind of game one, I wasn't shocked by the way the game went. Just put it that way. I wasn't.
No, I agree.
Right?
Um, Now it was interesting that Tito. There was a lot of people, and I was getting like DMs and stuff from people on Twitter, like, "Hey, do you bring Andrew Miller back out for the ninth? He's dealing, so on and so forth." And I'm like, and we talked about this earlier. I think it was in episode 1. You don't get away from things that you do all year. Cody Allen's been locking down since the All-Star break. He's been lights out. I mean, you have a 6-run lead, just bring him back out.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, don't bring him back out, but bring in Cody Allen. And Tito's done such a good job of that. He hasn't switched anything up. And yesterday I tweeted out, I was like, man, I really wish I would play Raji Davis over Naquin, because Naquin's just been struggling. I mean, he just doesn't look like he belongs right now compared to like earlier in the year.
Mhm.
But then I keep thinking back, and I'm like, that's just what Tito does. He doesn't take guys out of their roles. Everybody has their role. Everybody knows their role, and I think that's what makes this team so unique and so great. Is just everybody does what they know they need to do, and nobody tries to do too much.
Yep. Yep. And I concur with that. And Joe Madden is the exact same way.
Exactly.
He's
It's
the
no
guy.
coincidence that those two are facing off against each other. I'll tell you
He
that.
says it's business as usual. We don't we don't take this, we don't make rapid changes right away because something goes wrong. We saw it in the NLCS when a lot of people were ready to jump ship on Addison Russell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to
Right.
uh, potentially jump ship on all the guys. They wanted to shift all the lineup, everything else. You know, he was like, nope, we're going to stay the course. We're not going to worry about it. This is the stuff that happens in baseball, right? You go through
Right.
up and downs. It just gets absolutely magnified to the nth degree when you're in the playoffs, when you're in a championship series, when you're in a World Series. All of a sudden, a 0 for 7, right, is considered a slump now because of the microcosm and the microscope that these guys are under
Exactly.
in a series. When in reality, an 0 for 7 is
Happens
just another
a
Tuesday,
dozen times a year.
just another Tuesday in the middle of June and the dog days of summer, right, man?
Right.
It just so happens that this stuff is so talked about and absolutely picked apart with a fine tooth comb, and you just have to know that this stuff's going to happen, and that's why you know. That's why Joe Madden and Tito Francona are some of the best, because they approach these games. They know that it's a shortened series, and they change the way that they move their starters around. They've changed the way that their bullpen kind of works, but everything else, man, they just like, nope, we're in the ballpark. We're practicing. We're going to shag fly balls. We're going to go to BP. We're going to go practice punting. We're going to do all this stuff. It's the World Series.
Right.
I don't care. You practice like it's April, like it's first game of spring training.
Did you see that quote that Terry Francona had about the plane situation today?
What?
He was like they were he was just doing his regular old coach's
Yeah.
press conference,
Yeah.
and somebody asked him like, how was the flight over? How did it not take too long? And he was like, I don't know, but I'll tell you what. He's like, the planes that we get for the World Series are really big.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to tell the pilot to just keep flying around because I really like the thing. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was really funny.
That's hilarious. And that's just how Tito Francona is. I heard um, the thing about the Trevor Bauer incident in the ALCS, right? When he went out there, like he was on Mike and Mike, and they asked him like, "What were you thinking when you're about to pull Bauer?" And he said, "Honestly, I saw that the 50-50 was up to 85 grand, and I was like, I need to get in on this." You know?
I didn't see
So
that.
like
I didn't
like
see that.
that's just the type of guy he is, and that's obviously why he's a fantastic manager, because he never lets a situation get too big for him, that he is paralyzed to do his job, paralyzed to make tough decisions. And obviously a lot of that comes from having experience and making the wrong decision previously so that he can go do it the correct way the next time. But
Right.
it's just really it's a great time. So let's wrap up. So game one, we get a 6-0 shutout, right?
Correct. And you know what the worst part is, man, is Kluber might not have been the player of that game. I still have to give my hats off to Perez, and not just because what he did at the plate.
Oh my
The
God.
frame, not I don't want to say the framework, but the way he was spotting the pitches,
Mhm.
and Kluber was hitting his spots. He
Mhm.
wasn't trying to do much, when it came to framing pitches. I mean, he was just sticking the glove. He knew he was getting the
It
call,
was
and he
beautiful.
just knew. And me and my friend made a point, and I want you to look at this next time Wilson
Okay.
Contreras catches.
Oh,
Wilson
I know what you're
Contreras
going
may
to
be
talk
the
about. I
worst.
know what you're going to talk about.
He might
Oh
be the
wait, hold on.
worst frame job
Let me
catcher.
talk about this. Let me talk about this.
Go ahead, hit it. Go
Check
ahead.
this out, because I talked about the same thing. Okay, so this it goes right into game two very, very well, right? So Wilson Contreras, I love the guy. Right, he's going to be a fantastic catcher, but he needs to go to the Buster Posey School of Framework, right? Because this guy, Arrieta, was absolutely wild. It was the biggest facade I've ever seen in my life for a guy throwing a no-no going in the fifth inning. It was just an absolute facade of a no-no. Okay, the fact that even someone was talking about him potentially throwing a no-no throughout the entire game was an absolute joke. Okay, because Jake Arrieta, I saw on Roto World today that someone was like, Arrieta locks down the Indians. Are you kidding me? Just because he
No.
only gave up 2 hits? No, he was absolutely finding way more barrels at the bat than he was actually finding swinging whiffs, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so Arietta got very, very lucky last night. But
Yeah,
my
one of the announcers made a really good point. He wasn't great, but he was just bad enough. He was like bad enough to where we couldn't like sit on
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
You'd think the ball was coming inside and it would dip off the plate. It was just like you.
yeah,
He kind of had us off balance more than he had us
100%. And
fooled.
so to go back to the Wilson Contreras thing, okay, I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but typically in 538, the statistical graphical kind of site for ESPN actually did a study on the best framing pitchers in the MLB, and we can post this up at some point. But basically they looked at it frame by frame on the basically the acceleration from the point the ball hits the mitt to when it actually completely stops, right? And the more the acceleration happens, right, the greater the acceleration between the point that the ball hits and the point that the mitt actually stops, the greater the acceleration, the worse the framing is, right? Because it's basically saying the worse that of how fast you move from point A to point B, the faster you go, the worse it actually is, right? Because you want a
Mm-hmm.
smooth, gradual transition to the eventual completion stop. I liken it to if you've ever been with a brand new driver and you tell them to stop, they slam on the brakes, right? Whereas when you start getting older, you hit the brakes really tough at first, but then you gradually lean off them to get a nice, easy, smooth braking distance, right? Wilson Contreras takes the ball from a corner spot and it whips it to the middle of the plate like it's a bullpen pitch. All right, like dude, you're never going to get a call like that. I know what he's trying to do. I know he's trying to show the umpire behind him that listen, like this is a strike. But the guy isn't. He wasn't born yesterday. He knows that he's not throwing it right down the middle.
Listen, if the pitch is right down the middle, he'll sometimes mess it up to where he'll drag it off the plate.
Yeah, like I know what I know what he's trying to do. Like and the funniest part for me is watching the game and watching Contreras specifically, like we're talking about right now, right? The funniest part for me is that on play on calls that he thinks are balls immediately, he doesn't waste any time and throws them
Right.
right back to the pitcher. And like he never like I mean, it's out of his glove so quickly, right? And it's like if I was a pitcher, I would be like, just hold it there one extra second, just in case. Just in
Right.
case, just hold there one extra second. But my God, is his framing just he's gonna
I know he hasn't been a catcher for long, but that is just something that you should just be talked out of.
and it's just
You
so
don't have to coach that. You just talk out of
it's
it.
just so funny. Like I it was funny that you brought it up first because
I had to because I could not stop
I
talking about it. I'm like, this is terrible.
I had the exact same conversation with a guy at work today who opinion I respect a lot and who's a very big diehard Cubs fan. And we were both like, what the hell is he doing? Like,
Right.
like what? I don't understand. What's
I mean, there's sometimes where he has to be hurting his pitcher because he might be drilling the corner, but when the umpire sees you that you're dragging the glove
mm-hmm,
a little bit,
mm-hmm,
like you're coming from the corner to the middle of the plate,
yeah,
you might be hurting your pitcher at that point because
mm-hmm,
the umpire could be thinking, well, he's trying to frame it too much that they may not be on the plate. Well,
yeah, yeah, and
it's
so
tough.
going into the game too, like we already kind of talked about, Jake Arrieta is not the same guy he was last year that went 22-6 and had an ERA that was under 1 for the second half of
Right.
this season. Just
I think a lot of that has to do with innings. He's never thrown innings like that before, like he did last year.
last year that was part of the thing is that they said he was fatigued going into the playoffs, and he didn't throw as many innings this year. They kept his innings down more this year and gave him a couple of skip starts and things like that. But he's had a really really tough time controlling that slider cutter that he throws. Right, he hasn't been. His RPMs have been down almost 400 RPMs down from what it actually was. It was a decrease, and he wasn't sure exactly why it was that way. Um, and he's a guy that has such weird mechanics. Like and I don't want to sound like Joe Buck from last night, just beat to death points that make absolutely no sense. But he really does have odd mechanics. That he's
He
always
does. He throws like a reliever.
yeah, he's throwing across his body. It's very whippy. It's very interesting. And he's a big bulky guy, right? He's not like a
He's yoked with a
like
nice man beard.
yeah, he's a beef, like he's a beefcake, right?
Right.
But like um it's interesting for me because he doesn't have when all of his pitches are out of control like they kind of were last night. He doesn't have one pitch that he can consistently go to get control back together, right? Like
Right.
he like he never goes to another pitch that he's like, all right, we've got it. He can get a guy out, or he can paint a corner with this pitch, right?
Right.
So that to me is the biggest struggle he's had all year, and it showcased himself in the NLCS against the Dodgers, right? But it will rear its ugly head if he's forced to pitch again in the World Series, and he may not get as lucky as he was against the Indians last night, where he was just good enough where the balls weren't leaving the yard, or the balls weren't finding those gaps in the outfield, right? So I would be concerned about that. The biggest thing for me as a Cub fan last night was the juxtaposition from game one to game two, and the fact that game one, the Cubs had a bunch of chances that they couldn't capitalize on. And last night, the Indians had a bunch of chances they couldn't capitalize on. Most
Starting right in that first inning.
first inning, when Arrieta has two base on balls, he's got guys on first and second, and he's very, very wild. And Contreras has gone to the mound 3 different times, right? And I'm thinking right here that the Indians are about to get a rally. This is going to be tied up, or the Indians may be up 2-1 at the end of the first right here. And now the Cubs are kind of like, what's going on? They get out of it. Unlike the night before, where the Cubs had guys on base when they were loaded with no outs when Miller came in the game, and they couldn't capitalize on it at all and seemed to score one run. It was exactly the same for the Indians, and they couldn't capitalize to get that timely hit to bring guys home on the plate, score some runs. So I thought that was really interesting. And obviously, as a Cubs fan, I think obviously this was beat to death by Joe Buck over the last 2 nights. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's still absolutely amazing. Kyle Schwarber, right? The guy 6 months removed from 2 tears in his knee in the plant leg on the left leg. Uh, the fact that he's even taking pitches, to me, that first night was absolutely incredible. Like how do you see sliders that are basically
What
like
best in the game?
best in the game, and you're laying off of that? Even his first at bat where he forced a full count and he struck out swinging, against Kluber, who obviously was dealing.
Right. To force a full count like that
It's
and to follow up a couple pitches off is incredibly
amazing,
hard to do.
amazing, absolutely amazing. And I know, JV, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week. I was a big proponent of Kyle Schwarber playing because being in the Chicago media market, they had Epstein on many sports radio shows throughout the middle of July, June, and they straight up asked Theo Epstein, if we make it to the World Series of the Cubs, will we see Kyle Schwarber? And Theo Epstein was adamant with absolutely not. We will not see him until 2017. 100%. There's absolutely no chance. And when Epstein says something, I mean, he really means it. So,
And I think he did mean it at the time.
oh, absolutely. But I think that going into this series and then getting the docs to clear him, right? And then probably seeing the way he was taking pitches in Mesa, the way he was preparing, tracking the pitches on the pitching machine. It had to have convinced Theo Epstein that this was a good idea. And obviously, who has a higher baseball IQ than Theo Epstein in the game right now? And
Especially in front offices, not
and,
very
and,
many
and
people.
Joe Madden too. It's he obviously knows a thing or two. So the fact that they
Hmm.
saw something, I was confident enough to say that I think Kyle Schwarber was absolutely the right move, and it definitely paid off. And if he obviously he's not playing tomorrow, he's not going to play at any games at Wrigley Field because he hasn't been cleared to play the field.
Unless he does pinch it, he'll be on. He'll be active. But I know what you mean exactly.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, he will be on to pinch hit, which will be interesting, but he's not going to play the field, which I think it would be even a very scary risk. Even if he got cleared medically to play the field, I don't think it would have been smart for the Cubs
Right.
because
I don't think he would have played both games if he was
because
medically cleared.
because quite frankly, you're already benching Jason Hayward, who's an outstanding defender, for a lack of production at the plate. So now you're basically saying like, oh, but we'll put Kyle Schwarber out there, So
Right.
so to me, it's like, ugh, I don't know about that. And then I just it would just been a strange. He's a minus defender already with a healthy knee. How much worse could he be
Hmm.
with a bad knee, right?
Exactly.
He's not 100% great right now. He's still obviously 6 months removed from a pretty terrible knee injury. So the fact that he didn't get medically clear, I think, kind of relieves Joe Madden a little bit. But it would have been crazy, right? Because if he had went 1 for 8 games 1 and 2, we wouldn't be even having this conversation. We would have been having a complete like, oh, why was he even out there, right? But the fact
Right.
that
Hayward would have went 1 for 8.
I,
That's what everybody would
no,
argue.
Hayward's an instant strikeout and an instant out. Okay, guy can't even. Guy's getting paid 180.
He actually had a good swing yesterday, a really good swing. I think it was like the 6th or 7th inning, and it
Well,
was just a right at him ball.
I mean, who were you guys pitching that point? McAllister or
Yeah,
Taro,
probably
somebody
like
like that?
Fat Brian Shaw or
Yeah,
whatever.
Shaw, whatever. So, I mean, Kyle Schwarber is. I don't want to make him like the whole point of the series, but I think Ben Zobrist for the Cubs is the biggest point of the series right now. The fact that he is just a
As
machine.
soon as Madden put him in that cleanup spot,
Yeah,
he has that. Not only him, but that middle of that lineup taken off,
just
absolutely taken
just a
off.
machine out there, right? And then obviously Rizzo is locked in right now. Really surprising for me, Chris Bryant hasn't done much of anything, right?
No, and it hasn't really been talked about much
Yeah,
just because of the play of the three, four, five
everyone
hitters.
else has been playing really well, and it's um, fine. But um, it, I think to me as a Cubs fan, Kyle Schwarber is a huge deal, and I honestly think that he's going to get moved by the next trade deadline. I think it's going to be a terrible situation for the Cubs, but I just honestly I don't see a spot for him. Um,
Schwarber?
I don't think he can play. I don't think he can play defensively and field his position. Unfortunately,
Yeah. The issue here, if he goes to the American League, we know he's going to
Oh
DH.
my God.
They can't throw him at first base because you already have Anthony Rizzo out there. Throwing him in the outfield, you pretty much make him a liability defensively.
Yep.
But the guy has he could be I'm sorry to hit my mic there, but he's a top 10 kind of offensive player.
Yes.
He
Yep.
has that kind of capabilities. I'm talking about in all of baseball.
Yep.
He's going to hit you around 40 home runs a year.
Yep.
He's going to be up there with doubles. He's going to hit about 300.
Yep.
But throwing him out in the outfield, it is an absolute train wreck.
Yeah,
It's a train wreck,
really.
and it's a situation. And that's something that Epstein's gonna have to figure out. Is he worth trading away? Do you want to throw some more prospects on that team, or are you just gonna bite the bullet, plug him here, plug him there, and use his bat?
Yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of that could be solved with a World Series victory this year. You know what I mean?
I love the guy. I really do. He's like the epitome of a Midwest hero, right? He's got a steel wool beard on the bottom of his chin. It's just like the thing just is going everywhere, and you're just like what are you growing down there? Is it man or machine? We don't know. He's got he's built, like, part of my language, a brick shit house, right? Just
He is.
like just a beefy guy. Just looks like a guy that he could have played naked yesterday and he would have been hot. Like,
Yeah.
he would have been like, someone, I need water on me. It's
He was definitely that guy at gym class where you didn't want to be anywhere around as soon as you had to go towards the
but,
locker room.
but God, he talks like he's such a kid, and he's so happy, and he's such a nice guy. And Theo Epstein really loves him. And I think I don't want to see him moved. Obviously, we'll see what happens next year. But who knows what's actually going to happen from the start of next season. A lot of things can change.
Right. What has he got? 2 years left on his rookie deal or something? I would guess after
most
this.
of these guys are locked up for a
Right.
lot longer than anyone wishes in the MLB right now, right? Everyone wishes that.
That goes for both of these young teams. That goes for the Indians too. They're not losing a single guy next year except for like Raji Davis.
Yep, exactly. So so for me, those were the biggest takeaways that I had for going into going in game 1 and game 2, just as a Cubs fan. For JV, give me your kind of going into this 3-game set over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or if you want to talk about briefly, like, what you saw in game 2, that was a complete difference between game 1. I think we talked about off the air briefly, like the defensive lapses, really uncharacteristic for an Cleveland Indians team, right?
They came out really flat yesterday, and it was evident. And it was even in the crowd. Like, the crowd just, I don't know what it was. I don't want to blame it on the cold, because we're here in Cleveland. Like, it's nothing new. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
They're both cold. I don't want to blame it on the weather like people were on the radio.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't want to say flat, but the buzz just like wasn't there. I don't know if it was because the first inning fans just looking at Bauer throwing 30 pitches in the first inning, kind of knowing he doesn't have it, kind of sucked the life out of the stadium quickly. Compared to, let's say, we go in there, we go 1, 2, 3. Fans are on their feet. The offense is getting rolling a little bit.
There was no blood. There was no blood.
No.
So everyone was like, we don't care. So.
The Indians threw like 180 pitches yesterday, which is absolutely absurd. Like, it was just, I felt like everybody was just like, oh my God, we need to get this 27th out because like this is just miserable.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if if the Indians weren't ready to play yesterday, they're in for rude awakening tomorrow because it's going to be a scene that they've never, ever seen in their life
No
in
one,
Chicago.
no one's ever seen it in Chicago either.
No,
No one's
it's
ever.
going to be a spectacle. It's going to be fun to watch, and I'm a diehard Cleveland fan, and I can't wait to tune in at 7:30 p.m. just to see the pregame.
I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now. How
Right.
electric the field is going to be. I mean, we were having jokes at work today that like, well, we might not see on Monday because the town might burn down because of these games that are about to go on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Chicago, right? And that's not a historical, unprecedented thing to do for Chicago. It's already burned down twice. So,
Better the town than the river.
so you're 100% right. It's going to be electric, and then the fact that you're I think Josh Tomlin to me is probably right now with a battered rotation for Cleveland is probably Cleveland's second best pitcher right now.
I think other than Kluber though, he is the best thing to throw in this game tomorrow
Yep.
with how he throws about 60% curveballs
Yep.
and he's going to have hitters off balance. We I think I think Tito knew that he's our second best option and that's
Mhm.
why he didn't throw yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. That
Because I
makes
think he
sense.
wanted to kind of have him for game 3 going into Chicago
Yep.
and the curveball, the off-speed stuff. He's more of a just, I'm going to hit the corners and I'm going to hit my spots and I'm just going to try to limit the home run ball.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree, and I think Tomlin, like I said, is the second best starter for you. I don't. Power is second half.
And if we just had Kluber or Carrasco, I mean,
Yeah.
if we just had Salazar or Carrasco, I would feel so much better.
100%, especially in a compressed playoff type series like it's going to be where you're not going the entire rotation. So I completely agree. So I like for the fact if you're an Indians fan that you have Tomlin going tomorrow, I think that's a better matchup. But then you're going against arguably the best pitcher that Chicago has to offer in Kyle Hendricks, right?
He might be the most not talked about best pitcher in all of
I
baseball,
mean, I mean, really,
arguably.
really, really good. I mean, these and for people that maybe haven't tuned in to baseball all year to watch Kyle Hendricks pitch, I mean, you're going to be in for an interesting dilemma because if you're a regular fan, a lot of guys they want to see Chapman come in and throw 102, right? They want to see a guy that throws all like weird, off speed pitches, knuckleballs, all this stuff. I would say that Kyle Hendricks is a lot like Kluber, right?
Hmm.
Not going to overpower you, but it's absolutely going to nail his spots. It's going to paint the corners, and he's going to all of his pitches move a little bit, like you said with Kluber, right? But if you're looking at Hendricks, and if you guys don't know much about the guy, I mean, he's 16-8 this year. He's got a 2.13 ERA, right? I mean,
Just brought his stats and what you're pretty much talking about up on the screen
yeah,
for those of you guys who
yeah.
may not know.
I mean, a point nine whip. I mean, this guy has been arguably the ace of the Chicago Cubs staff, and he's going to game 3, right? So the first home game in Wrigley Field for the World Series, the first World Series game for the Chicago Cubs, and the Cubs played in the 50s, so 60
Hmm.
years. So most people it'll be their very first World Series experience ever as a Chicago Cubs fan. I mean, gosh, that is a huge task for.
And here's the stat that sticks out to me about Hendricks. He has just as many earned runs given up as walks.
That's
Think
insane.
about that.
That's insane.
That's incredible.
Absolutely insane. So, and Hendricks is just he's just a cool, calm, and collected guy. Just a very cool customer. His demeanor never gets too high or too low. Just a great leader. Really a pitcher that you want on the mound in a crazy environment, in a crazy situation. So I think he's going to do really well.
And you know what? I think Hendricks kind of resembles Josh Tomlin more than he does Kluber,
Okay.
just by the way he goes out there. He's not really known. It's just he's going to give you everything he's got. He's not going to walk anybody, and
Yep.
he's just going to put a quality start up.
Yep.
And you know what, man? I think Hendricks isn't talked about much because he's not making great money. He's never really been
He's not
this
flashy.
kind of guy. He's not sexy like
Yeah. He's not
Lester and Arrieta.
Syndergaard. No
He
one.
does his job, man.
Yep.
Love guys like that.
Mhm. I mean, a lot of people have likened him to Greg Maddux.
No, that's a very good comparison.
Great stuff. Always got a little bit of movement. Going to paint the corners. Never going to overpower you. But all of a sudden, he's going to strike out 10. And you're going to be like, "What in the heck?" Like, I don't know what happened. I know they interviewed Buster Olney, and I think it was back in August, and Olney was talking to an umpire that had just umped one of Kyle Hendricks' starts, and the guy was just like, "Holy crap! Like that kid is good. Like that stuff is really, really good." So, looking forward to the game tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely, it's going to be a dogfight. Anyone that thinks that this series, I saw articles from ESPN after game one that top 10 reasons why the Cubs are in more trouble than people think, top 10 reasons why the Cubs are in an issue. If anyone is saying the opposite today, is that's absolutely short sighted. This series is going to go seven. Okay.
And here's the thing: it is now in Chicago's favor. Like the pressure is now on the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians had home field advantage until yesterday.
Yeah, no, I
That
agree.
is, and that is no longer the case. I was really wanting the Indians to win games 1 and 2 because I had a feeling that if we went to Chicago, there is a possibility they can win 3 straight. And now I'm a little bit nervous because if they win tomorrow and somehow find a way to get to Kluber,
Mhm.
that this series is over because they're not going to win with Bauer or Salazar on the mound in the closeout game in Chicago. They need to find a way to win one of these three. Obviously, in Game 4 we have Kluber. So if we can win one of these two, that Kluber's not pitching, and hopefully get Kluber
Mhm.
to do what he does in Game 4, it's gonna be great. But I mean,
It's
predictions at this point are kind of out the window. Nobody knows
yeah.
what's gonna happen. I feel like it's gonna be a dogfight, flip of the coin, and if it goes anything but 7 games, I'm gonna be really shocked.
It's true that the Tribe have not lost four straight all year, though, right?
It is, and not all year, and they're
So,
the only team in baseball to do that.
so if that happens, they're going to have to lose four straight, right?
Right?
So that's why I'm banking on the fact that, and
They're not. I agree.
and they're this is what for the Indians to have a chance to win the World Series. Kluber has to win all three of his starts, which is a massive task to begin with, right?
He's got to do a Bumgarner.
He's absolutely got to win all three of his starts because when Kluber's on the mound, it's basically a headshot for each one of these guys, right? They have to take their shot and they cannot miss when Kluber's on the mound, right? Because if they miss, it's basically a double score for the Cubs, right? Because it's basically like getting +2 instead of +1 in the win column because you know that starter is just so valuable to their team. But for them to do it, they need Kluber to win all three games, and they have to sneak out a win with one of their other starters. And if that's Tomlin tomorrow, I think that gives you probably the best shot as a squeak out win for you, unless they can somehow miraculously get Salazar to start a game, or something.
Which I think is gonna be tough to do because he came out there yesterday in garbage time, and
Yes.
that kind of scares me because that kind of tells you where the pitching staff and the coaching staff sees where he's kind of see where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with how quick they were like, yeah, Kluber's pitching Game 4
Yeah.
without a doubt. With them just triggering that quickly, knowing who our games 1, 2, and 3 starters are, I kind of don't see Salazar getting any meaningful innings.
My perception though is that the game four starter for the Cubs will be Lackey. That's what I'm guessing will be. I don't think that they'll trot Lester out there on Saturday night. I think it'll be Lackey for Saturday night, and then
I agree.
it'll be Lester on Sunday. Because for Lester, that'll be a full day's rest night or a regular 5 days rest. And I think that's what they want to have happen. I think that's the smartest situation for the Cubs.
And no offense against Lackey and Cubs fans, but if it's Lackey against Kluber, Game 4, that's a must win for the
A
Indians. That's a
hundred, a
must win.
hundred percent. Which is why, if I'm an Indians, if I'm a Tribe fan, that I'm not really freaking out too hard about it because you're going to have probably a Lackey Kluber matchup on Saturday night, and that's absolutely 100% a winnable game for you, right? Uh,
Right.
Lackey's, Lackey's had a lot of experience in the playoff situations, a lot of experience
But
in the playoff series,
he's a year older.
but he's just doesn't have the same stuff. And the dude gets so mad so easily.
Yeah.
He's always angry at something.
If you get to him early and you can get under his skin, ruffle some feathers, make him throw pitches, work some counts, that's the best way to beat him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. But I'm just the series is only 2 games. It's only 2 games young, right? And I'm already just thinking like the
I don't want any days off. Like I want to be watching a
no,
game
I
right now.
know. I'm dreaming about it, and it's like the storylines that have already happened from obviously Schwarber we talked about to K-Bot just doing this thing to the really the inclement weather, right? The inclement weather yesterday, we were wondering if we are actually going to get the game in yesterday,
Right.
right? And the fact that that could have been a huge situation because you get if for both teams obviously, but for most of it probably for the Indians because you just let Andrew Miller pitch 46 times in the first game, and if you had a day off in between that, and now Miller's got an extra day of rest for
Right.
potentially a game 3 situation. I mean, that's huge, right? That's really huge, and
Another day off would have favored the Indians greatly
I
because you
mhm,
know that they're throwing Kluber short. I mean, they're going to throw Kluber on short days rest. Their bullpen, they're just absolutely working.
yep.
Um,
Yep,
yeah, it would have favored
taxed.
us.
Yeah, absolutely taxed. So, I wish, and I don't know, JB, maybe you have some thoughts on this. Like, do you think we're gonna get like some sort of compression to the season, like for these Midwestern towns, and we're really gonna see it here? I mean, obviously, the World Series probably is probably not going to finish in the month of October. It's going to finish in the month of November. I'm pretty sure 2 days ago was like it was the anniversary, I think, or maybe it was yesterday, the anniversary of when the Chicago White Sox won the World Series, right?
Hmm.
Do you think we're going to get some sort of like maybe 5 games lopped off of the schedule or more
Right.
doubleheaders or something to get?
I think the magic number would be like 155, 152, maybe even if it's just 10 games. But it's just so hard to do because you're messing. I don't want to say messing with history because the seasons have kind of been up and down
Mhm.
over the past 100 years or so.
Yep.
Um, but it's tough to do with you got 32 teams. Everybody's got to play everybody a certain amount of time. But you have to have a certain amount of division games.
Yep.
It's tough to do. It would I be surprised? No, because I mean we're not playing in Miami. We're not playing the Tech. I
No,
mean it's cold,
not a
and
dome.
it's
Yeah.
it's affecting the game.
Yep.
And I don't want to hear anybody tell me about these neutral stadiums where they should play these games in
No, no,
Miami.
no, 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 no.
That's terrible.
Absolutely
That
not.
that is not baseball. I
Good
mean that
God,
is
no.
if there's any sport that doesn't need that, it's baseball.
Yeah.
I mean that shouldn't be how it goes.
I appreciate baseball for the fact that it's a grind, right? I
Mhm,
appreciate baseball for the fact that you have to go in and day out and deliver your best, right? And
right.
to me, that's something remarkable that any other sport doesn't even hold the candle for, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I just think it's kind of wrong that it's going to be November, and I think the forecast for Chicago for the next 3 days is fairly temperate for this time of year. I think we're looking at 50s, 60s, which is just insane for a Midwestern town in the at
Yeah, no. If you
October.
can ask for 50s, 60s,
Yeah,
and in
it,
the World Series in our kind of cities,
mhm.
you're
I
you're
think
striking gold.
I think that's really good, but I just wish we can move the series up just 1 week, just so that we're
Hmm.
not in a situation where the inclement weather could have an effect on the World Series. Because I would have hated it for both teams that they would have canceled the day and everything got shifted. Right? I'm glad that the MLB did what they did and they moved the game time up an hour. I thought that was a really great move by the MLB. They obviously had
And it worked out perfect
it
because it started pouring when that game was over.
yeah, I saw that. I saw that in the post game that it was absolutely pouring, and I was like, hats off to the MLB. They did the right thing. They made the right call by moving it up an hour. Because the worst thing would have been is that game goes 5, and then they postpone it for tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
all mayhem breaks loose
Right,
before.
and then you're gonna yeah, and
Yeah, all
that's
may.
just something that you didn't want to see.
Yep,
They made the right call. They don't do it often. The MLB
yep,
is kind of almost like a train wreck when it comes to weather and postponements and makeup days
yep.
because it's just a long schedule,
Mhm.
and there's not many off days. But they made the right call there. They did.
Absolutely. So I just I'm with you. The only problem with it is that those 10 games, the players aren't going to want to give them up because that's money in their pockets that they're going
Right.
to give up.
100%. And
And
you can't start 10 days earlier because the last 3 or 4 years here in Cleveland, it has snowed in the opening series.
you
Absolutely, it
can't
has
move you
snowed.
can't move it up because you also need spring training time too because
Yeah.
those guys there's guys that are fighting for the end of the bench, those end of the spots, even in the triple A, double A, single A, even
Right.
cut guys or any
Guys like Roberto Perez,
yeah,
perfect example.
developmental leagues. Those guys that you know for the guys that are going to make the MLB roster, they could care less if there's extra 10 days short enough this spring training. But for the guys that are on the cut list, that's very
Hmm.
very important days. You can't remove that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So
Especially when I mean, and even if you know you're going to get cut,
mhm.
you playing in those extra 10 games, those 10, it's tryouts
Yeah.
for you're putting on a showcase for somebody else out there who may have the whereabouts to try to sign you.
And JV, let me get to this take before we end up taking a break because we did spend the hour talking about the World Series, which is fantastic. I'm really glad I think we've really covered it in depth, and I really appreciate the conversation that we had. And I think it's good stuff from a good fan perspective. But I heard a lot about this today. What are your thoughts on? Do you think the NL will ever abolish the DH or institute a DH position, right?
I don't
Because
think they should.
everyone's talking about this Kyle Schwarber thing because he can't play in the NL, blah 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 blah. Do you think we're going to see a DH in the NL ever?
I do not. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Um, it's been 100 plus odd years or whatever it is, whatever the number is. I like it, man. It kind of gives you there's American League and there's a National League for a reason, and I like how there's that difference.
Mm-hmm.
Two different styles of play. The NL needs to use they got to play small ball more.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the AL where they're hitting more home runs. Pitchers are kind of pitching people different. I like it. I like the difference. I like how just the game is played on two different sides of the league.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is I wish there was a DH because I think the players would be in favor of a DH.
Right,
Right?
and it would be better. And I think it would be better for the fan, but like
For
it'd be better for baseball.
so that's
But
my
as a diehard fan, I don't believe so.
so that's my point. I understand the historical significance of having a DH in the AL and not one in the NL. But I think the players would be for it because it adds an extra roster spot for a DH, a specific DH for all the baseball teams in the NL. So I think that's a positive for the players, which is why I think they would like it. I think it's a positive for for the teams themselves because obviously baseball wants to bring in more fans, and a lot of fans don't like baseball because it's so low scoring. So obviously having a DH would obviously help that. And I get the kind of the point where it's two different leagues and it's two different styles of play and stuff like that. But it's really it's the only major sport that has such a significant difference between the rules between two different leagues, right? It's the only
Right.
sport I can think of that has such a significant.
Yeah. Maybe soccer or something. Over there. In the other side of the world, but not here in America. There's nothing like it.
It's, I mean, just the rule change. I
America.
really can't think of anything that's off the top of my head, and maybe someone out there knows that of like where two different leagues where there's such a drastic difference between the way that the game is played within the same sanctioning body. I think that's pretty crazy. But to me, I would love to see a DH, only for the fact because I think it would be good for the players and I think it'd be good for the fans overall. Historically, I understand why you wouldn't want to do it, but I'm more thinking of it from a business perspective and from kind of a player's viewpoint. Because if you get to add that DH spot, there's going to be a couple guys that maybe wouldn't make a roster who are now making a roster.
Right.
So kind of a interesting takes.
It's one of those things that you can make an argument for both sides, and you can give reasons why it's good and reasons why it's not.
Yep.
Um, but
Yep.
it's just I think baseball's take on it is just the history compared to views and what's best for baseball and what would be best to watch, what would be more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I don't think we're going to see a difference unless we see a change in maybe with the commissioner or
Absolutely. So
so on.
I mean, to really wrap this up, I mean, we said
Let's make Game 3 predictions real quick, man. What do you think's going to happen in Game 3?
I'm going to say that the Cubs win a tight game. I think it's 4-2, and I think Schwarber comes in and adds to this sort of legacy. It's going to be a 2-2 game going in the seventh. He's going to come in and he's going to hit a two-run shot off of Andrew Miller, and then everyone's just going to freak the hell out and call Schwarber just the greatest player of all of his generation, and immediately put him in the Hall of Fame. So I mean,
There you go.
because that may actually incite a riot. That may actually cause Chicago to burn down if that somehow does happen. I mean, I'm always been in the notion that guys are never as good as they are and never as bad as they are. I'm always somewhere in between that, right? Schwarber is a very, very talented player, but let's not put him in the Hall of Fame yet. But I have a feeling just this storybook when he came in and against Miller with the bases loaded, right? Or I think maybe it was there was two on. Was it two on? I believe
It was two. I think it was second and third, and they had a base, or it was first and third. It was first and third.
something like that when he came on, and they were only down by 3 at this point, right? And I was like, this is gonna. I mean, you can't write it. You can't write it like this. This is gonna be it. He's gonna
sit up on the couch a little bit.
Yeah, he's gonna jack.
Yeah,
right out of here,
babe.
right?
Hold on a sec.
So I mean, that's my prediction for tomorrow. So bold prediction: Schwarber hits a two-run shot off of Andrew Miller to make the Cubs just Wrigley Field just gonna melt down right on Addison and Waveland, just right into the ground, sinkhole, and everything's gonna open up, and they're gonna have to build a new stadium by Saturday night in order for them to play another game. So that's my prediction.
I got the game going 2-2 going into about the 6th or 7th inning. Both of the starters coming out of the game, and it comes a bullpen game, and then I'll just take the bullpen from there. I'll say Indians win a 1-run game.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm not gonna pick the Cubs. I don't have it in me to do it, but I really do think it's gonna be a bullpen game tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a little bit a little bit less scoring than what people might think.
I agree. That's why it's going to be
So I think it's gonna be a bullpen game.
it would really depend on the wind tomorrow. Let's watch the wind tomorrow. That's a huge effect in
Right,
Wrigley, the way that
especially with the lefties.
it's blowing in or blowing out. Depending, really check that if you're a big baseball guy tomorrow, what they're doing, what's happening, and see what's actually going to what the wind is going to do tomorrow, because that'll affect the way the offenses happen. So before we go to the break, let's just kind of give our viewers and listeners out there, we appreciate everyone out there, Twitch simulcast, thank you so much for being here with us, radio, mobile, scorespace.org. Obviously, thank you so much to Squarespace for hosting up. After the break, I'm going to open up and go off on the NFL and the handling of the Josh Brown situation, and just how awful and just totally hypocritical that Roger Goodell is in every single situation that he's been in, and how he's failed as a commissioner in every single situation that has called for him to act like an actual human being. I'm going to go off on that. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the World Series. I don't want to hear your point about the 2-3-2 format, because we talked about that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
coming up to the break. We're going to talk about that. We'll give you a little bit of breakdown of the NFL, do some power rankings, and then to wrap it all up, we'll kind of talk about our fantasy weeks and talk about our start of the week and our sit of the week, and go for there. Do you have anything else to add to that, JB?
No, man, and for those of you guys who may want to do so, man, especially with fantasy questions, don't be afraid to give us a call, 646-558-8656. We're trying to get our first caller, so
Someone
somebody
can
put it to
call
us,
us.
man.
Someone ask us.
I know we're not out here giving away gift cards and video games and stuff like you may be wishing, but don't
If
be
you
afraid to
want
call.
to call us, please. We'll love you, as JV says in the promo. Best, best thing to hit the internet. Thank you so
Right.
much. I'm MSU Fanatic. That is JV Gaming. Please stay tuned. We will be back after these sick tunes on Scorespace Radio.
Take care, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's your boy JV Gaming and your boy MSU. Man, how was the first hour?
That
Did you like
was
it? Did you have fun?
phenomenal, man. I'm so, I hope there's a lot of baseball guys out there, a lot of baseball fans. If you're not a baseball fan, I hope you're watching this current World Series. I know we spent a whole hour talking about it, but man, I really glad we did. I thought it really this series really deserves the respect of not only as a fan but as a player but as a just MLB in general. Just phenomenal, man. So I'm really glad that we took the time to really give it what it needed and what it deserved. So I'm really appreciate that, man. It's great talking to you as usual, and it's great giving our perspective because you know our teams, my team, kind of your team, obviously big diehard, are both in it. So it's awesome, right? So.
No, I agree, man. And for those of you guys who don't know, man, me and MSU and our producer, we were just talking to our producer there during the break. He was like, "Man, it sounds like you guys have known each other forever." It's been a solid like 90 days since me and him have like met. So,
You,
um,
yeah, it's not,
it's we're
yeah.
still trying to learn a couple things here and there about each other, and there's things I find out new every day on the stream. For the fact that maybe like today I was like, "Wow,
Are,
MSU kind of looks like Chris Bryant a little bit,"
are you
in
my
the face, but I don't want to
wife,
compliment him
my
like
wife
that.
or
So.
radio partner, right?
A little bit of both. It
Yeah,
depends. I get you for 2 hours a week, so I got to enjoy it.
yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So,
So,
uh,
man, let's get into this Josh Brown situation. I know you brought it up before the break, and I know it's just been something that you wanted to light up here for about 72 straight hours.
I mean,
I know you woke up this morning, put your pants on, and you're like, "Yep, I'm about to rip Josh Brown and Roger Goodell to shreds." So, let me hear it, man. What's your take on this whole situation?
so, all right. I mean, so let's this is gonna have to be set up uh, from the start, JB, because it's something that is pretty near and dear to my heart in terms of just the way the league has. Obviously, the ratings are down for the NFL across the board. The product on the field is really, really bad, and it's been declining over the past 3 or 4 years, right? Um, I think it starts from the head, which is Roger Goodell. Okay, and it really starts from 2014 when the Ray Rice incident comes with his then fiance, now wife, Janae Rice, right? And I really don't need to get into that too much because I'm sure we've all seen the video, we've all seen the domestic violence that occurred. Um, that was a complete egg on the face of of the NFL. The handling of that situation, the handling of Ray Rice, the handling with Roger Goodell saying that they couldn't find information, couldn't see the video. The first time that they saw it was apparently when everyone else saw it. You're the NFL, right? There's really only one other organization, which is the United States government, that's more powerful than the NFL, right?
And that's the honest to God truth.
Right.
And people might be thinking you're being sarcastic, but he's about anywhere from being sarcastic.
So
That's the truth.
So let's recount. So Ray Rice, okay, right, suspended initially for 2 games. Okay, I don't know if anyone remembers that he's suspended initially for 2 games. Okay, then right before that, the video comes out of Janae Rice. Everyone knew that he was suspended for domestic violence, and that's why he was suspended for the 2 games. But the video came out, and everyone saw Adam Schefter crying on national television because of how violent he saw this video, how brutal the incident actually was at this hotel in this elevator lobby on this captured on this video camera. And to me, the entire time I'm thinking, why in the hell do you need to be able to see the video of domestic violence to all of a sudden realize that, oh my God, like, you know, this is domestic violence. This is what domestic violence looks like, right? So to me, that makes absolutely no sense that we had to see a video in order for us to actually figure out.
Hello.
We have a caller. Hello.
Hey, just want to get your opinion on Geno Smith starting for the Jets.
Geno Geno Smith starting for the Jets.
Yeah.
Well, he tore his ACL, so he's out now. So no longer going to be the starter. You get Ryan Fitzpatrick up there, who's going to continue to throw interceptions for you. I feel bad for Geno Smith. I don't know how you feel, JV. I feel pretty bad about the situation just because. Um, you know, I think he has a little bit of talent, and this is the most amount of weapons he had around him, and now he just
Right.
ACL.
Right. And real quick from the caller, man, can we get your name and where are you from? Deuce. Where are you from? Cleveland, Ohio? He hung up. He got off. I saw the 216 area code, so I'm figuring he's somebody from around my area.
Okay. Well,
but yeah, he wants to elaborate on the whole Geno Smith situation and starting for the Jets.
talking about domestic violence to Geno Smith.
Right.
Which is domestic violence by IK and then Polly punching him in the face last year, right? So that's
right. I mean, I don't feel bad for him necessarily. I mean, injuries happen. Don't get me wrong. I feel bad as hell for Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Geno Smith thing, I don't really care about just because like he's not really well respected.
Yeah.
And sometimes those kind of things catch up to you, and I don't want to say it's a karma kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now it's at the point to where people really don't sympathize for him.
I sympathize for Geno Smith because I hate it when any player, regardless of who they really are, gets their careers cut short or their time playing cut short because of an injury. I always feel bad about that. So,
do you think his career's done?
I don't think his career's done.
In New York is what I'm trying to say.
I think they'll re-sign him. Have you seen the quarterback play lately? It's awful. I'm watching Blue Bortles over here throw up a stinker on Thursday Night Football.
They just have so many quarterbacks on that roster.
So they're all terrible. So someone will sign him. He'll get another shot. But that's our take on Geno Smith. That was a interesting segue to that.
Interesting call. It was a 216 area code, so it's definitely got to be somebody from the Cleveland area. So it's definitely got to be somebody that either myself or somebody I know is affiliated with.
The phone calls, absolutely appreciate them. If they're on topic, we'd really appreciate them even more. So let's get back.
Yeah, how do you feel about domestic violence?
Domestic violence.
Geno Smith.
Okay, so we're talking about. So the video comes out. There's this huge outcry, right? Of everyone pissed off, hates the fact that this happened. What's going on? It's awful. And my whole point is, why do you have to see the video to understand what domestic violence is, right, JB? Like, honestly, for me, and I don't know in this situation, I've actually never, thankfully for me, I've never seen a woman getting striked, right? I've never seen this happen, right? But to me, I don't need to know what it looks like in order for me to know what domestic violence is, right? Domestic violence is terrible. You should never ever lay a hand on a woman, regardless of the situation. You should just never do it. Okay. I don't need to see a video to know how bad it is. Okay. But then all of a sudden the public outcry happens, and all of a sudden what happens? Ray Rice ends up on the commissioner's exempt list, right? Which is essentially pretty much just police paid leave, right? Player gets paid and doesn't get to count against a roster spot for that team. Okay. So free ride. And then there's finally a little bit of a step in the right direction where Roger Goodell comes out. He creates the domestic violence policy, right, where the first indication of domestic violence is a 6-game suspension for any player. So I'm thinking that this is a good thing. Okay, now let's fast forward to this year. Okay, Josh Brown, the kicker for the Giants, is suspended 1 game for violating the personal conduct policy, right? Not the domestic abuse issue, not the domestic violence policy, right? He gets suspended the 1 game. Okay. Josh Brown was a free agent this past year who didn't need to be re-signed by anyone. Okay. The Giants claim that they had their own people. John K. Mara, co-owner of the Giants, had their own people investigate the situation. They were comfortable enough to sign Josh Brown. Let me read you a quote. Okay.
I can only imagine.
Let me read you a quote from Mara after the Ray Rice situation. Okay. This is quote, everyone in our league, players, coaches, front office people, need to understand that there is no excuse for domestic violence ever, and there's going to be severe consequences for anyone that encourages or happens to have domestic violence, okay? That was Mara in 2014 after Ray Rice, the same person that signed Josh Brown this past summer, knowing what happened, okay? Quote from Mara to WFNA and New York, okay? He certainly admitted to us that he abused his wife in the past. Okay. What's a little unclear is the extent of that. Huh? Are you the extent of that? Now we're qualifying the subjectiveness level of domestic violence to determine whether or not this guy is worth a multi-million-dollar contract.
Right. Well, he hit her 2 times, but he swung 7, so he missed 5.
Are you freaking kidding me?
It's unreal.
Are you? That makes absolutely no sense. He goes on to speak about it. Quote, there's a big difference between allegations and convictions or indictments. I'll agree with you on that, Mara said Wednesday. And a lot of times there's a tendency to try and make these cases black and white. They're very rarely black and white. You very rarely have a Ray Rice video. So now you're telling me that it's okay to strike a woman just as long as it's not on camera, that it's not in photos, that we don't have video evidence? Are you absolutely out of your mind, Mara? Like, who are you to say that it's subjective? Go talk about all those women who can't report domestic violence abuse because they're afraid for their lives about what the significant other might do to them because they don't have subjective photos or evidence to show someone. Are you kidding me? It's domestic violence. The guy admitted that he's a sexual deviant, that he's physically abused his wife and verbally abused him. Okay.
Now he did say, and you might have briefly went over this, and I was dealing with the whole phone call thing, but he did say that he never hit his wife and never
that's
would.
an absolute lie because Josh Brown was arrested in 2015 for domestic violence, and Josh Brown admitted to police in documents that came out and were leaked to USA Today last week when all this went out. The documents released was, quote, I've been physical, emotionally, and verbally abusive to my spouse. That's
Okay.
what Josh Brown said in the documents.
And that's in a police report, correct?
Okay. This is where I start having a problem with Roger Goodell. Okay. The fact that the NFL could not get these documents is absolutely a joke. And the fact that they can't seem to suspend him under the domestic policy that you instated after Ray Rice struck Janae Rice in an elevator, in a hotel room video elevator, right? They see those things and they suspend him. You institute this policy just for that, and now you can't suspend Josh Brown, even though he told you what was actually happening. Are you kidding me? That's an absolute goddamn joke. You suspend Tom Brady for 4 freaking games for what is really a lack of credible evidence of whether or not he actually did something, for deflating freaking footballs, right? 4 games, and you chase him around into the Supreme Court for 2 years to suspend Tom Brady for 4 games, but you can't suspend Josh Brown or kick him out of the league for 6 games for admitting that he abused his wife. I mean, that's just shame on you, Roger Goodell. That's a joke. You know why that the ratings are down for the NFL? Because it's shit like that happens on a that Roger Goodell hides his incompetencies when it comes to things that matter by going after things that don't matter. Okay. Just this week, we're talking about suspensions and fines. Antonio Brown twerks in the back of the end zone. It's a $15,000 fine. Okay. Are we kidding me? He twerked in the end zone. We're going to suspend him now. People are talking about suspending OBJ for hitting the kicking net and having him hit him back for
That's not even on the field of play.
temper tantrums, right? We're talking about suspending OBJ for those things. John K. Mara is talking about suspending OBJ, and you have a guy that you just re-signed for a multi-million-dollar contract and a kicker that physically abused his wife and admitted to you before you signed him. And you said you did your due diligence. That he said he has daughters of his own, that he talked to them to see if it was okay. What in the hell, guys? What is wrong with you? Okay, why does the public perception and the lack of information prevent the NFL from punishing people? Okay, it didn't matter in Tom Brady's case, right?
Right.
You suspended Le'Veon Bell 2 times this past year for smoking a joint, okay, which is legal in 2 states, okay? Like, but you can't seem to kick Josh Brown. It took you until the USA Today leaked documents stating that you guys actually knew about this, and then Roger Goodell goes on and says, "Oh my God, the fans, they don't get it. It's a lot more complicated than what you guys think." They try to pull a fast one over eyes because we're too stupid to understand the policies and the ethics that go into suspending players in the NFL.
That he develops.
Excuse me, what? Like, he's quote, this is quote Roger Goodell. We've asked repeatedly for those facts and ... We weren't able to get access to it. He said again this past week in London during the Jaguars Giants game. He said that. I'm flabbergasted beyond this. Okay, it's a total juxtaposition of what is meaningful to you as a sport and what is not meaningful to you as a sport. Okay, it goes so far into looking at the breast cancer awareness in the month of October. Okay, so obviously it's pink all month here in the NFL, which is great. Absolutely love it. It should be. We should try to bring as much attention to these causes as we can. Okay, but the NFL will continue to find they fined D'Angelo Williams because he wanted to wear pink all year for his mother that died of breast cancer, right? That died of breast cancer, and the NFL was like, absolutely not. We'll fine you every single time you do it. Are you kidding me? Not to mention, I learned this week, JV, 8% of the retail goods that the NFL sells for breast cancer awareness goes to the American Cancer Society.
Say that again.
8% of the retail goods sold by the NFL go to the American Cancer
We're
Society.
talking about 8%.
8%.
And he's going to boil this down for you guys who are listening. We're talking about absolute chump change.
Hold on, before you get off that, okay? The rest is pocketed by the NFL, by the people that make the goods, okay? By the teams that sell the merchandise and the owners. They all pocket the rest of that money, okay? 8%. Now, 8% is better than 0%, okay? But when you break it down by franchise, it's $31,000 per NFL franchise, okay? Let me let me just tell you about the fines that have happened this year so far in the NFL, okay? Anquan Bolden, he threw a football into the stand, $6,000, okay? Kawan Short, unsportsmanlike contact, $18,000. LeGarrette Blunt, unsportsmanlike conduct, $9,000. Rob Gronkowski, $9,000 for taunting. Draker Patrick, $9,000 for a face mask. That's already $31,000 right there, and that's only in week 6. It's only in week 6, and I haven't even read the rest of them. Okay, Glover Quinn got $24,000 an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in week 6. $24,000, and you're getting $31,000 to the American Cancer Society per team for the month of October. I mean, NFL, just go screw yourself, because that is a joke when you're saying that you're trying to do something good. They do the exact same BS for the military. Okay. Even they're not doing it because they're
It's a
patriotic.
show. It's a
They're
show.
doing it because they think that it's going to incite fans to watch them on TV. Okay.
Exactly.
There's a poll that came out today that people are not watching the NFL because they are protesting the national anthem. Get the hell out of here. That's such a joke. They're not watching because your product is poor and because you're a freaking moron, because of the stuff I just talked about. Okay. Cam Hayward, right? Left end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, lost his father to a brain tumor. Okay. Wants to wear eye black for honoring his father, right? NFL said, no way, you're not going to do it. Wrong type of cancer, wrong month. I'm tired of Goodell standing up for issues that don't matter to hide behind the ineptitude of things that he falls short of elsewhere. I'm tired of that. That's why we don't watch the NFL right now. That's why we hate what you're doing, because you're taking all the fun out of the game and you're not actually helping causes that are beneficial to you. You're a fat pig that's trying to get fatter for all the owners. Well, these guys are out there busting their asses, getting head trauma that who knows what's actually happening to these guys, right? It's such a joke.
And that's such another huge issue that
I absolutely
could go
hate it.
on.
It's horrible. Everything about it is such a joke. Roger Goodell, it's a shame on you. The bottom line of this whole situation, when it comes to domestic violence, I'm all for due process. But when a guy physically admits to you and says, "I, I've struck my wife. I've been physically and verbally abusive to my wife," okay, he's done. Get him out. He's done for the 6 games. I'm all for you having a policy as long as you follow said policy, right? If I were going to go to my employer and they had a policy about smoking weed, right? If I were like, I went up to, I was like, I smoked a joint this weekend, right? It's well within their right to do whatever they want to me because they're a private company and they can do whatever they want. I'm an at-will employee. It's the exact same thing with the NFL, right? So they have all the power in the world. Roger Goodell can suspend people for destroying cell phones. He could suspend people for twerking in the end zones. For some reason, he cannot suspend people for striking their wives. He cannot
Right, for the
suspend
issues that
spousal
matter.
abuse. This is exactly why the arrow is pointing so far up for baseball, so far up for basketball, and it's pointing so far down for the NFL.
Which I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
So that's that's what I want to cover. When you guys go into work tomorrow or you go to school tomorrow and people are talking about the NFL or they're talking about breast cancer awareness or you're talking about that, tell them with the facts, read through all the media bullshit, right? This is the real take. This is the real take, okay? Because we're gonna tell it to you real. And this is what you need to tell these people because more people need to be educated on what actually is going on in the NFL instead of Roger Goodell saying that you guys are too stupid to understand. Okay. So that's what I want to say. And that was my big rant for this week and why it's absolutely horrible of the way the NFL went about and did all this thing. And it's just really a sham. I'm not going to turn off the NFL. I love the sport. I'm not going to do it. But you know what? Like, figure it out before everyone else goes away. And the only people left watching are guys that play fantasy like you and I.
No, and you know what? And I think, and I was actually going to get into something like this. I think it was last week. I was just like, you know what? Where would the NFL be without fantasy football? You know what I mean? Like, it would still be a very popular sport, but do you not think that fantasy football plays such a huge role in viewership and the love of the game?
It's the only reason why.
I watch still because I'm a Browns fan, so I'm not watching product.
Yeah.
I'm watching other
It's
things.
the only reason why I have this Tennessee Titans Jaguars Thursday night football game on because my starting quarterback, Marcus Mariota, is playing.
Right.
The only reason why I'm watching, right?
I'm not watching it because of what Roger Goodell has put on the field.
And I don't know if you've seen the score yet, JV.
I haven't.
But it's 34-0 right now. Titans are winning.
Judas Priest. Well, I'm not happy because I got Blake Bortles starting in my league because I got somebody on a bye week. So
like, or wait, no, it's not 30. It looks like they just scored a touchdown potentially. Jacksonville Jaguars did. Blake Bortles is a complete awful human being in terms of just a football player. I want to put that in there. He's awful. He's the worst quarterback in the league, worse than Brock Osweiler. But yeah, fantasy is the only reason why people are. It's 33-8 right now in the third quarter.
Gotcha. No, man, good stuff on the John Brown. I liked it. I know it was something you wanted to get into. I think it's something that's needing to be talking about. I know that our partners over there with Out of Bounds talked about it yesterday. Kind of briefly went over it. And I know that you were kind of should I still talk about it? We talked. We got together. I was like, yeah, man, go ahead. I mean, everybody's got a different take.
Yep.
I think you did well. Made some great points. Great stuff.
Yep.
I guess we could switch topics here, man. You want to get into you want to do NFL power rankings now since we're on the NFL?
Man, I don't know if I can talk. I'm hot right now on the NFL, man. I'm just.
Well, how about this? Let's do our top 6 college football rankings because that's
Can
one
I
of my
even do
favorites
top
to
6
do.
right now? Just put Bama for me for the top 4. That's all I want to do. I mean, good God. I mean, I know they looked kind of contained against Texas A&M for a little bit, but my God, I mean, did they just roll? They roll over everybody,
It's interesting because at the beginning of the year I was just like, the redshirt freshman ain't gonna get it done all year, and now I'm like, who's gonna beat them? Do we give him a ring today?
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
It's gonna be really, really tough. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Michigan State is this weekend, right? Michigan moved up to number 2 in the polls. Well, absolutely well deserved. Obviously, big rivalry game. It's at Michigan State in East Lansing this weekend. I have no hopes that Michigan State's going to win. Michigan should hang 100 on us. Absolutely. I mean, Northwestern scored 54 points against Michigan State. Sorry to get too much delving into my just horrible Spartan fandom right now. It's just like my heart hurts every time I watch these games right now. As you see, if you guys are on Twitch simulcast, I got MSU stuff just all around me. But Michigan should absolutely beat the brains out of Michigan State this weekend, and they have tough parts of the schedule coming up, and I think that they should be in the top 4 if they win out. Obviously, the Big Ten title. I number 3 for me is Washington still. Jake Browning, Heisman Trophy candidate, huge game against Utah. Right. I thought I saw that Utah had the most takeaways this year, and Washington has the fewest amount of turnovers this year. So that's a great contrasting style. I haven't been able to watch Washington all year. But this weekend, I'm absolutely taping that game. I'm going to watch it very, very closely because I want to give you guys this best take that I possibly can next week when we do end up talking about them. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. Jake Browning is a great guy, and I just think it's going to be a great game. It's a Pac-12 game that we always on the East Coast. We're East Coast biased guys. It just sort of happens, and it happens throughout.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to give them as much shout out as I can. And I think number 4, you got to put Clemson in there right now. Huge game against Florida State this weekend. Obviously, they got to beat them. I don't think Florida State's that good. I don't think Clemson's that good. I still think Ohio State's the 4th best team in the country, even though they dropped the game against Penn State this past weekend. And I think Penn State will be there, or not Penn State. I think Ohio State will be there at the end of the year because they really have the cleanest path to get back to the top 4. But that is absolutely my top 4 college football right now.
Okay. I'm going to definitely say Bama number 1, and if I can give them 2, 3, and 4, I would.
I think
Nick Saban is just a god, and he deserves everything he's getting.
Is Lane
Kiffin, number 2,
Lane Kiffin going to get a job at the end of the year? I mean,
I don't know if Nick Saban will let him, or I don't know if Alabama will let him.
I mean, he rubs guys the wrong way all the time.
He might be the highest paid assistant coach ever after this year.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're going to want to keep him on that staff. That's up to. Trust me, Alabama's going to do everything they can to keep him on that staff. But Lane Kiffin's going to want it. He's going to want a head coaching job. He's going to want another shot. He'll have a head coaching job here.
Yep.
Especially with a lot of these big jobs opening up. This is going to be a huge year for coaching positions here in college football.
South, I think it's huge for him if he stays in the South. I think it's underrated on how much. Knowing your area, knowing high school coaches, knowing those type of guys, building those types of relationships helps you out in recruiting. I think that's huge.
Exactly.
Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to.
Huge. It's huge for him to be at Bama too because he's building. I promise you this. He's building a rapport with any kind of football organization, football camp down in the South.
Yeah, exactly.
He has connections with. Number 3, I'm going to go with Washington, just like you, man. There's something about that team. They're like my man crush team. I love that team.
You got to watch that game this weekend. We should Skype during the game and talk about it because that's a great pre-course meal before the World Series because it's on.
I agree.
It's on at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, so it's great precursor.
I like it. Boiler Boy will be here too.
Yep.
Shout out to Boiler Boy. I know you're watching. He's driving in from the Purdue area to come up for my birthday weekend and then tailgate on Sunday. Nice. So that'll be cool. Nice. Number 4, I'm gonna go with. Pains me to say this because I'm not going to pick Ohio State, but I'm going to say Louisville. I'm going to take Louisville over Clemson. I know Clemson got the best of them week 1. Yeah. There's something about Clemson I just don't like this year.
They turn the ball over too much. They're careless with the football. They did this last year. They remind me of the Jameis Winston FSU team that went to the college football playoff that played Marcus Mariota out in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, that's such a perfect comparison. Yeah, I like that.
Where the guys have a supreme amount of talent. They always seem to find a way to win, and they're always down big in the first half, and they always came back. That reminds me of what Clemson is, and just so happens that it's also an ACC team. Right?
Yeah,
I just think ACC teams are soft. I don't know. How hard can it be to play football in 70-degree weather all the time? It can't be that hard.
Yeah, in an offensive-driven conference where you need to score more than the other opponent.
Yeah, so
I like Louisville though. I think they got the best quarterback in the nation for their team.
He's electric. He's gonna be so bad in the NFL, but I don't care.
He's not gonna play a lick in the NFL at a pro level.
I guarantee you, someone will draft him in the first round.
Absolutely, the Browns will trade up to like the 24th pick in the first round to take him.
The Browns are turning a leaf. They're turning.
I love I'll believe it when I see it because I've seen about 16 years of new fucking leaves. I've seen more new leaves in this town than anybody. Like new species of leaves, all kinds of leaves, brown leaves. I've seen blue leaves. I've seen all the leaves you could see for a Browns fan. Then I got Ohio State looking in as well as Clemson. Like you said, man, Ohio State's going to win out. It'll be Michigan, Ohio State last week of the year in Columbus. Winner goes to the college football playoff in my mind out of the Big Ten.
Well, they got to win the Big Ten conference championship after that,
right? Which I'm assuming they would.
But they could go against Wisconsin, which I don't know if I want to play Wisconsin a second time around. Right?
At a neutral site, no, that's going to be
that's really scary. Right?
But they beat them in Wisconsin. But it's hard to beat two teams in any sport 2 times in 1 year.
Does Ohio State have Nebraska this weekend?
They do. This is probably their last battle, I guess you can call it before Michigan.
Not a battle at all.
No, and I was really scared. I was like, geez, Ohio State could be undefeated going against Michigan State. Michigan last 2 weeks of the year, that's going to be a dogfight. But little did we know we coughed it up against Penn State, and everybody's just. I think it was you, man. I was streaming Battlefield the other day, and somebody was like, "Yeah, Ohio State's done," and I just had to drop my controller. I'm like, what do you mean they're done? They got 1 loss. They have the most perfect schedule to match up with somebody. To make it into the college football playoff. What other 1-loss team has a better road than Ohio State? There's not, and there's only going to be 1 undefeated team in the college football playoff, maybe 2 with Washington. So
yeah, I agree.
I mean, I can go on a rant all day about that, but that's just I won't stoop down to that level. But so yeah, my top 6. I'm going to repeat it again real quick: Alabama, Michigan, Washington, Louisville, and then Clemson and Ohio State looking in.
Fair, fair. We want to go to power rankings for the NFL.
Yeah, you can kick it off, man,
Sure.
because I
Okay,
it's a
that's
train wreck
fine
for
with
me.
me. It's a train wreck. NFL's a train wreck right now. I was looking, trying to come up with my power rankings. This year last year at the same time, I believe we had 5 or 6 teams that were still 6-0, right? So like right now, there's no teams that are undefeated. The Patriots have the one loss, and pretty much everyone in the NFL either has 2 or 3 losses, even teams that I think are pretty decent. So I'm just going to preface it with that. It's hard to really find teams without holes in them. I still think the Patriots are number one. Tom Brady is now he for every statistical passing stat that he qualifies for now, he finally got enough attempts to qualify for them. He leads everyone by a wide margin. He's my MVP, even though he missed the 4 games. He's still my MVP this year, especially if he continues on the tear. The Cowboys I have number 2. Biggest surprise for me is their defense. It's healthy. Dak Prescott is remaining the starters, remaining the starter. So I think that's really interesting. You're getting Dez back this week, which is a huge. We'll see how that integrates into the offense. Number 3 for me, the Vikings obviously just got blown out by the Eagles. The Eagles are a completely different team at home than they are on the road. Um, that's my take on that. Sam Bradford is not as bad as he looked last week. I still am concerned about that Vikings offensive line. I've been saying it from the start. If anything holds them back, it's that offensive line. There's a reason why Adrian Peterson was averaging less than 3.3 yards per rush when he was actually healthy behind that offensive line. That offensive line is really bad. You got Staley on the market out in San Francisco. You got potentially Joe Thomas out on the market too. What I heard. So if I'm one of those that team, I'm trying to trade another pick to get one of those guys because your window is now. Still have an elite defense, but like I said, the Eagles stomped the Steelers with their entire array of offense at home. The Eagles are just a completely different team at home than they are on the road, and we're going to find a lot out about the Eagles and the Cowboys this weekend on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be
Can't wait for that. It's gonna be
it's
fun.
gonna be a really, really good game. Number 4 for me is the Broncos. I think Trevor Simeon's going to do enough. C.J. Anderson has a meniscus issue. He's going to be out for the season. It seems like potentially coming back for the playoffs. So I think Devontae Booker feels in that role just fine.
He runs hard.
He runs really hard. I think he fills in just fine. I don't think they lose a lot with CJ Anderson. Not CJ Anderson not being back there. Not to discredit anything CJ Anderson has
No,
done
I agree.
up to this point, but I think the Broncos still have a very elite defense. The 2 corners they have, right, and Chris Harris and I'm blanking on the other guy, Aqib Talib, right? Those 2 guys are interchangeable. They're just big physical corners that he can lock down receivers.
Right, one of the best duos out there.
The defense is great, right? 5 for me are the Packers. Obviously, coming off a big win Thursday Night Football last week against the Bears. Obviously, not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but Aaron Rodgers threw 56 passes last week, which was insane. Eddie Lacy obviously is out for the year now with that high ankle issue, and then you have Ty Montgomery kind of filling this like H-back role, which I think fits nicely for him. And it'll be interesting to see how they integrate Niall Davis into the offense this past week or this upcoming weekend. They're going against the Atlanta Falcons, which I think has a better defense than people think. So I'm interested in that game this weekend too. So 5 Packers, 6 Seahawks. Seahawks have a real problem on that offensive line. Couldn't get any push. Sunday Night Football for me was not fun. I thought it was
Oh,
bad offenses more than good defenses. The Cardinals' offensive line is not good. Carson Palmer all of a sudden looks really aged and really old. Can't move that ball downfield, and that's a problem. Obviously, they have a really good runner.
it looks like he lost a little, I think, pop in that long ball or that
But
not even the long, but
you had
that
like
those intermediate
like
routes.
4 missed field goals in that game. To me, that was just. I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't good.
Snooze fest.
I don't want to say it was a stupid. I just didn't think it was that good of football. I mean,
Yeah, I
honestly,
turned it off. I
thought it
couldn't
was.
watch it anymore.
I thought it was more bad offenses than it was good defenses. That's just my take on that. I got number 7. I got the Raiders. just because, well, why not? You know, like
They were my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC just because I didn't want to take the
they're
Patriots.
5-2. They're going to need a wild card berth probably because I see Denver winning that. I see Denver winning the AFC West, and they're going to. I think that AFC West division with Denver, Oakland, Kansas City, and San Diego is actually a very tough division. But
Yeah.
Derek Carr is really, really good. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper may be the best 1-2 tandem in the league. I know some people are talking about the Giants with Shepard, Cruz, and Beckham.
No.
Shepard's hit a rookie wall already, and I really believe that that team is built to win. They got to watch out for the defense. They paid a lot of money.
Their secondary's
They
bad.
paid a lot of money for Bruce Irvin, who hasn't done anything. They have Derek Emerson, or David Anderson. I forget the name, the corner for Oakland, who's very,
No,
very
I got you. Yeah.
They have Khalil Mack, but it hasn't paid off what I expected. Right behind them at 8, I have the Cardinals. Again, just because at this point, when you get to this lower half, you just don't have a lot of good teams to choose from. 9, I got the Eagles. That's a huge win going against the Vikings. Wentz is coming back to earth. Don't think he's really that bad. We talked about him last week in episode 2. Still think he's going to be productive for the rest of the year. They just have to figure out a good way. They need to run the ball better with Ryan Matthews, who's, I believe, averaging right around 5 yards per carry. He's had a very under the kind of radar season. They need to control the ball more in that offense. They've been getting a lot of defensive scores, a lot of special team scores the last 2 weeks. We'll see what happens against Dallas. Dallas is actually number 1 in time of possession this week. I don't know where the Eagles are. I'm sure they're pretty bad right now. So that'll be a nice little juxtaposition this weekend, going against the Dallas Cowboys. And number 10, I got the Steelers. They're on a bye week this week. I know they just lost the Patriots. Everyone's going to lose the Patriots. They were really shorthanded without Ben Roethlisberger.
They're the Alabama of the NFL.
Yeah, they're coming. Obviously they lose against Miami, and just a really weird day and a coming out party for the Miami Dolphins and Jay Ajayi 2 weeks ago. But I'm still have them at number 10. This is more of a future forecast for me than it is a right now setting.
At current, right? I would agree.
Just because I think there's a lot of teams that you could put at number 10 overall. But if you look at it, like who maybe Buffalo, but they have 3 losses too, and they just got blown out by Miami. Miami at 3-4, like I'm definitely not going to put them. Giants at 4-3, who are they really beat that's any good? You just get into a lot of bad football teams really quickly. Maybe Kansas City should sneak in at number 10.
They always do somehow.
Spencer Ware looks really, really good. If I'm a Jamal Charles owner and I, drafted him in the 2nd round, I hope I picked up Spencer Ware in like the 8th, because Spencer Ware looks like he's running like a man on fire. You always are going to wonder how Alex Smith is going to do when he's forced to throw the ball vertically. But they're gonna win with decent defense, and they might be getting Justin Houston back this weekend, which would be huge.
That's huge for them,
for that front 7. So, sorry, I didn't mean to take such a long time on that, but I just wanted to kind of give.
I'm only gonna do 1 through 5 anyways, and then I might have a little wild cards here because I know we want to do 10 teams, but it's so hard with the NFL right now. It's so early.
So go ahead, JV.
1 through 5 though. I'm gonna take the New England Patriots at 1. They're until Tom Brady isn't a Patriot anymore, they're going to be Super Bowl contenders every single year, and maybe even after that, because Bill Belichick is a genie, and them getting like how good was a pickup of Martellus Bennett? Sneakily a great pickup because he's not doing much now, but I promise you to God that once they get into playoff time and they get into the meat and grind of the season and they're running them 2 tight end sets and they're dicing you with Blount, and they got James White and maybe Deion Lewis, out of the backfield. It's gonna be hard to stop them.
It's tailed off a bit, but the 2 tight end sets that they run for the Patriots, it's huge. It's really helpful.
Yes.
For them. Yep.
And I think their defense is going to continue to get a little bit better week by week, because they haven't played really well defensively, which hasn't really shown yet, or hasn't really been a big emphasis because they're sitting here at 6-1 and their offense is thriving.
Yep.
And number 2, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're the best team in that conference at this point, right there with the Vikings. Oh man, it's scary to think that if Dak Prescott can continue to get better and better every week, which is just like you're almost waiting for him to like show signs of being a rookie, but he's doing the exact opposite. And I'm giving 75% of that to the offensive line and the other 10% of that to the coaches, making it really easy on him, only having to really look at half the field, quick reads. I mean, he's not getting hit. He's just sitting back
This
there and he's just
weekend,
doing enough.
this weekend, Philadelphia's front seven is absolutely for real. We'll see how it goes this
Yeah,
weekend.
they need to put pressure on him. Like I need to see a team put some pressure on him and make him have to um make him have to play the game
He's
like
got to throw
on
the
his
ball
shoulders.
vertically, right? He's got to throw the ball
Right.
vertically. He's got to be show that he can lead his team when the teams. He's been really lucky to be able to call offensive plays in which you could run or pass at any given time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what happens when everyone knows that he's got to pass.
Right. I want to see him down 4 with 3 minutes to go, and he has to go 80 yards.
Agreed.
I want to see him have to. I want to see the offense need to be predictable. But like, yeah, Dak Prescott's going to drop back here, and they're going to throw the ball.
Yep, exactly.
You know what I mean? And then I got the Minnesota Vikings at 3. I know they were coming off a loss. Sam Bradford didn't look really good. You know, it's the first time he's really had to put the game on his shoulders instead of, you know, managing the game. I'm not going to blow it out of proportion like I know a lot of people are. Still the best defense in football in my mind. I think the running game's going to continue to.
Not even close
No,
to trash.
I think the running game's going to continue to get a little bit better and better. And let's all remind ourselves here, Sam Bradford hasn't even played a half a season yet with this football team, with the playbook, and with that full roster.
Such a good point.
He's going to get better.
It's get off on a slight tangent. I was watching Hard Knocks because I didn't watch it all, and the complexity of play calling, it's
unreal.
It's unreal in the NFL. And
he's probably only been introduced to about 50% of that playbook in games.
The installs for that. I mean, guys, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, X-ray 52 slot, ZY 58, 30, whatever. It's they have what I just said, and they have that 3 different times, right? Because it's so specific and they have so many different looks and sets they can get out of a formation. So just being able to get in and out of a huddle by relaying what just came over your headset, it's got to be pretty intense for him. And then processing that information while diagnosing what the defense is showing you.
Right.
Yeah, I totally.
And that's why I was so high in them 2 weeks ago when they were sitting there at 4-0 and 5-0. I'm like, this guy's he's only played a couple games here. He hasn't. I'm telling you, he won't even know that whole playbook until week 10 of the season. I mean, he might know it, but he's not gonna. The coaches aren't gonna give it to him until, like, you know, week 10 or so of the season. So I think Sam Bradford's gonna continue to get better, and I think the offense will slowly but surely excel more and more and more. And then you put that together with that defense that they got over there, is just it's scary. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yep, I agree.
At 4, I got the Oakland Raiders. I'm a little bit biased on this because I was so high in them coming into the year. I seen what they did on offense and know what they can do on offense coming into the year, and I seen what they did in the offseason, improve the defense. They got some stars over there. They got a good pass rush with Khalil Mack and you know, the outside linebackers, the defensive ends. Our front seven's just great. I feel like, or it has the potential to be great. That's a good recipe for a winning team. Outside of, you know, the New England Patriots right now, Oakland Raiders in the AFC, Broncos, I guess you can make the case for the Broncos. I'm just waiting for Trevor Siemian to show up. He's like the Dak Prescott situation almost in a way in the AFC. You know what I mean?
But he's shown he can sling it around a little bit. Cincinnati,
dude,
3,
he's.
I think it was week 3.
We were looking at Swamalytics quarterback chart 1 through 40, and he was like the 35th ranked. I don't know what it was, but some of the names that I saw that were ranked high. Trevor Siemian's doing a really good job.
He's a good player.
He's a quality player, and like we've stated 2 weeks in a row, if you can win with what Peyton Manning's noodle arm was winning with, I promise you Trevor Siemian can. So I'm gonna have Oakland Raiders at 4, Denver Broncos at 5, Seattle Seahawks at 6, only because I just don't see how they're going to be able to protect Russell. If Russell Wilson's going to get injured if they can't fix that offensive line.
Yep.
That offensive line is a huge issue right now. So yeah, I gave you 6 teams. I told you I was going to give you 5. I wanted to throw the Seahawks in there because I'm not counting them out yet.
Sure.
I'm not going to tell you the Packers because they look lost, and after that, I mean, it's anybody's ball game after you see those teams there.
Perfect, man. Really, really good stuff, man. So I guess we'll just wrap it up with fantasy. If anyone's got any questions, go ahead. Feel free to give us a call about any guys you're contemplating. You're not sure if you should pick up, any trades you've been sitting on this week that you're not sure if you pull the trigger on, starter sits, things like that. Call us. let us know. JV, you got the number real quick off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's gonna be 646-558-8656. And then you'll find the caller ID at scorespace.org. I don't have that off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
but it's easy to get a hold of us. Like I said, the call-in number 646-558-8656.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Yeah. So, anytime we get a call, we'll answer. We'll try to do the best for our abilities. We don't make any promises though. Here, we know that fantasy is still fantasy, and it will rear its
Yeah,
ugly
I don't
head.
want you calling us next week
Telling us,
and with
"Why
death
did you
threats.
tell me? You told me to do this, and I did it, and I did it." Yeah, no, we can't do that. Sorry, guys, but we will do our best with the information we have gathered amongst us right now in order to give you. So, JV, how'd your week go in fantasy last week? What were
1-1, man.
1-1? Okay.
I keep winning in Rachel's work league, and I keep losing in the league that I won last year with my buddies, who's it's a 14-team league, and it's just like, oh yeah, I had a good week on Thursday with Aaron Rodgers and Ty Montgomery. I was like, all right, cool, we'll get a win here. No, I still lost.
Nope.
It's tough, but we'll start off with the win.
Yep. Yep.
Last week we won 151-110. I mean, I'm just putting it to people right now. It's getting rough. I had Eli Manning, rough day, 7 points total. All right. He didn't have he had a really good completion percentage. But the points weren't there. And then I had David Johnson. We know what he did. He had 30 points total, 113 on the ground, and he had about, I think it was like 60 yards total through the air.
That's a monster.
But he
really
had like 9 receptions. I mean, he's just so good. Le'Veon Bell as well. He had a huge day. Doug Baldwin finally had some sort of production for me. Manuel Sanders. But the big guy who I have in the flex, Jay Ajayi. I have Jay Ajayi, Le'Veon Bell, and David Johnson in this league. If all three of them stay healthy, I don't see very many losses coming my way.
Dude, last week I was on here talking about if you can get away from Jay Ajayi, you should probably try to get away from Jay Ajayi because Buffalo Bills run defense. This is the second week in a row that I've said to get away from someone. He's just gone absolutely nuts. Jay Ajayi.
Did you watch any tape on him? Like, he is running with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, I remember him from Boise State. The whole reason he only got drafted in the third round wasn't because he was a bad runner or anything, because he has congenital
issues,
knee problems, right?
Yeah.
Real bad knees. But yeah, he's a violent runner. He reminds me of LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah,
coming out of school.
He does.
In terms of, he looks for contact. He's quicker than LeGarrette Blount. Looks for contact. He's a one-cut runner. The thing I like most about him is that he hands the ball off and he doesn't dance around and wait for the hole. He just strikes the hole, and he runs like he knows that there's a hole going to be there. Right. I love that about him. He's doing such a good job. It's really remarkable, and I really like the way that he's running. I will say this: if you can potentially trade him right now and sell high on him, I probably would.
And that's something I'm looking to do, especially with Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson back there, because my wide receivers are a little weak.
I'm
Doug Baldwin, Sanders.
If you have Jay Ajayi, I'm selling him for a second tier in the second group of receivers. I'm talking about the Mike Evans of the world. Okay, not quite the elite tier where you have Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones. You might be able to get an AJ Green if you package some sort of deal together,
right? Or if you absolutely
I'm not looking at those guys. I'm looking at that second tier. I think if you can swing it, my biggest one would be try and go after and go get Mike Evans. I think he's absolutely a great pickup right now. I think that's really good. Maybe Amari Cooper, just because I feel there's touchdown regression coming for him.
Right.
He's on pace for like 1,400 yards for like 3 TDs. It's gonna move up. He's gonna get touchdowns, so maybe look at someone like that. Maybe even a Kelvin Benjamin, especially because Benjamin's coming off his bye, so that's kind of a +1 for you that you don't have to worry about in the future. You may be able to do a 1-to-1 trade for Kelvin Benjamin for Jay Ajayi. I think that would be a great selection for you. And then on the lower end of that, maybe like a Randall Cobb or a Jordy Nelson. Someone may be willing to give up on Jordy Nelson right now, right? If they're willing to give up on him, then I would honestly take him. And then even lower than that is Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, a lot of people are thinking about cutting Alshon Jeffrey right now. You can definitely swing that and get something else, maybe another running back or a tight end package deal for Alshon Jeffrey. Jay Cutler's coming back, right? You know who Jay Cutler's favorite target is? Alshon
That's his
Jeffrey.
boy.
Okay.
Right.
Alshon Jeffrey's going to get – he's also one of those guys that was on pace for like 1,400 yards for like 3 touchdowns. So those are the guys that I would be looking for if you have Jay Ajayi and you're so inclined to try and sell him for a different piece for your team.
No, I agree. And I'm running into a quarterback issue with this team because I'm going back and forth with like Eli Manning, and I just picked up Dak Prescott. I haven't had the chance to start him, but some guys I haven't, the opportunity to pick up. Blake Bortles, who's playing today, I didn't pick him up.
Good.
The options are slim, man. I got like Trevor Siemian, Carson Wentz, Case Keenum. Like for some reason, people are stocking up on quarterbacks here. I mean, it's slim picking, so it's pretty much it's going to be a quarterback by committee for me right now. I got Dak Prescott in. After this week, I'm going to. Yeah. And then I'm hoping as soon as I start to hear rumblings, if Romo may be coming back, that's the guy I'm targeting just to swipe in there, see if I can take a waiver on.
Totally agree.
And then we'll go to the team here that my prize possession team that I wish was what I wish did well, but isn't really panning out for me. 1-6 right now. Picked up Ty Montgomery, was feeling good about it. But man, it's bad. But this is the team with Aaron.
Montgomery he got running back eligibility for ESPN leagues, not for Yahoo leagues. Okay.
Right.
So that means that you can start him either in a wide receiver or a running back slot. So make sure you just confirm with that when you're setting your lineups. If you're playing on ESPN, that you can put Ty Montgomery in either one of those spots, depending on what your week at. Just be aware. So,
but the issue I'm having with this team is, so I'm currently tied for last place. Mm-hmm. But my points scored, I have more points scored than the second and third place teams.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just one of those situations where I'm not catching a break. So it's just one of those years. Everybody has them.
And you'll catch breaks the other way coming in back in the second half. That's just fantasy football.
Right. But I am still alive in the points thing. Every week, whoever scores the lowest points is eliminated. Mm-hmm. I might be the first ever team to finish last place and win the points contest.
Perfect.
So
yeah, I like
at least we got something to play for. But go ahead, man. What about you? How did fantasy week look?
1-1. The one team that I lost in, I put up a good fight. I didn't score any touchdowns outside of my quarterback, so that's pretty difficult. But I still put up like 120 points in standard scoring, which is a very, very good week. There's nothing to be ashamed about that. I just didn't have any offensive touchdowns. None of my wide receivers scored a touch. Oh, sorry, Demaryius Thomas scored a touchdown, but he only had about 40 yards for a 10-point day. But other than that, I didn't get any touchdowns out of Christian Michael, Le'Veon Bell. None of those guys scored touchdowns for me. And I went against a guy that scored the most amount of points in my league. So I lost that league. In the other league, I put together a really, really good week. I picked up Ty Montgomery and started him immediately, and it's a half-point PPR league. So that was huge for me. I started Tyrell Williams. I started AJ Green, who had a really, really great day. I had Tevin Coleman, who scored for me. Frank Gore, who scored for me. Matthew Stafford. I put up the most amount of points in the league. Felt really good about that. So I feel confident about the league that I lost in this past weekend. And I still feel like that league, even though I have Beckham and Bell on buys this week, I feel okay about it. The other league I'm still kind of scared about, even though I think I can probably string it together and make it into the playoffs, but I really don't think I have a shot at winning a title unless something really falls into my lap. I have a very good team, like top to bottom. But I have no stars on that team.
Right, you're missing that punch.
I have AJ Green and I get Des Bryant back this week, right? I have my running backs are total crap. I had Eddie Lacy, so that kind of screwed me. Now he's out. I traded for Tevin Coleman. Now he's out with a hamstring problem. Frank Gore. So I have Latavius Murray coming back. So if I could kind of squeak something and stitch something together for my running backs in that league, I should be okay. But it's just it's hard to do. I have just weird things. My other league, I feel like I have stars that can go off for 30 plus points, right?
Right.
And as much as I love consistency, and I talked about it last week, if you're scoring 110 to 120 points a week consistently, you're going to find your way to a championship instead of the guy that scores 70 and the guy that scores 140 week to week.
Or if you're like me and you're scoring 130 plus a week.
I think that's really important. So I feel confident. I still feel good. DeMarco Murray looks like got hurt in this Tennessee Jaguars game. So if Derrick Henry's available, you probably can't pick him up, obviously, because he got locked. But unless you have weird waiver rules, so try to go pick him up right now, because a lot of people may have had him on rosters, got sick of it, and cut him because he was a most
Yeah, if he's still on somebody's roster, that's got to be a deep league
yeah.
because
So
he
he's
was not
a
seeing
most
anything.
feared player on the bench right now, but I think that's a good pickup if you can go and get it. But so JV, what's your start and sit of the week?
Um, wow, I wasn't really expecting that to hit me
Oh,
here in the
sorry. You
face.
want me to go first? I can
Yeah, you go first.
give me a start of the week.
Right, because I deleted my notes here because I thought we were going to cut it short because it's 11 o'clock. So let
No,
me
no,
pull it back up. But go ahead.
we'll add in the start of the week and the sit of the week here. If anyone's got any phone calls, please call in, ask us about starts, sits. But we'll just add that in, and then we'll just wrap up the show real quick after that. But I think my start of the week right now, I kind of like Brock Osweiler at home going against Detroit. Detroit, especially if Darius Slay's out. Um, I'm feeling kind of good about that. I don't think it's a bad play if it's a streaming option for you. Brock Osweiler is certainly not on anyone's roster, unless you're in a deep 2 QB league. So Brock Osweiler could be a play for you as a start. And I think the other guy for me, Devontae Booker, going against San Diego. San Diego is awful against the run. So I think that's another great start for you. My sit of the week. Um, gosh, it's really hard for me to pick one, but I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers this week. I think there's better options for streaming out there. Maybe like a Kirk Cousins against Cincinnati. It might be a good option for you. But I think Atlanta's got kind of an interesting pass rush with Vinny Curry on the outside.
Right.
You got that one Vic Beasley, I believe, is outside
Mm-hmm.
linebacker for them. Got a good pass rush. Could be a dangerous situation. Atlanta always plays good in the dome. They absolutely need a win to stay with that in that division, even though the division's really bad. They have 3 losses already, so they really are going to be searching out for a win. So careful of Aaron Rodgers this week, especially after that long layoff. We'll see what happens, and I'm interested to see how they integrate that offense with Niall Davis getting a couple more touches. So, JB, go ahead with your start.
Well, my stardom, I'm gonna just real quick, and I'm not gonna get into this guy too much, but I like Andy Dalton again this week, just like last week against Washington. Andy Dalton's just been on a tear, and he's going up against a weaker Washington team. When it comes to the DBs, I know they got Josh Norman over there who seems to be trying to lock down. I think he's coming off an injury. I don't know what his status is, but I know he's the opposite side of the ball is getting picked on a little bit. But if I had to absolutely pick a starter for the quarterback position, this is going to be this one that's going to shock many. Ryan Fitzpatrick for the Jets going up against the Cleveland Browns. If you're playing the Cleveland Browns and you're playing that secondary, go ahead and start him. Love Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. And for my sit-em, I don't like Travis Benjamin this week against Denver, number one target out of San Diego.
I think Tyrell Williams is the better play anyways of this
San
Diego Chargers receivers. Tyrell Williams, I think
he's kind of taken over the reins.
He's gotten the most targets out of everybody right now, and I think he's a really good player to have if you're going for the wide receivers. But
I agree.
But you know what, guys? JV, unless you have anything to add, I'm going to wrap.
Real quick, let's. How do you feel about this Ken Griffey Jr. MLB The Show cover?
Yeah,
I had to say it, man. I'm in love.
I'm in love with it too. I think it's I mean, he's the kid,
Only downside is now we're actually gonna have to get up, go to GameStop, and actually purchase the game.
Oh my God, are you getting the Hall of Fame edition?
Oh my goodness! You think I'm not gonna miss out on getting that sick hat?
You would look good in that. I'll just look dopey as hell. So
no, I would definitely never wear that on public. I would just sit behind my stream.
I'll look so stupid if I wear that hat. But yeah, I'm probably gonna get the Hall of Fame edition. But
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. But
yeah, that's it.
I
think that's it though, man. I just want to give a special shout out to all the men and women in uniform, police officers, firefighters, everybody overseas serving. I know my dad and his buddies, who are all police officers, are kind of tuning in right now. So shout out to you guys. Nice. But go ahead, man. Take us off, MSU.
Good, man. Hey, I thank you everyone for being here. Twitch simulcast, everyone that's on the radio, on mobile, squarespace.org. Big, huge shout out goes to CJ. Thank you so much for letting us do this. As usual, we are presented by Squarespace. I just want to get us a quick, I want to plug in all the other shows. Flashback Friday tomorrow. With Snake Doctor. I mean, God, he's the best. I mean,
that's just the show for him.
Yeah,
man. He was born to do that.
I mean, if you're looking for a great time, tune in for that tomorrow. Obviously, we got the Knockout with Live In on Tuesday nights. We got Out of Bounds last night, and you got us on the Real Take. So shout out to everyone that's on Squarespace. We love it. it's just awesome. So thank you so much again for everyone being here. We really appreciate it. And just remember, guys, that takes our dish best served real. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place.